Okay, Manny, I think I mislabeled the last one that was Charlie Kirk,
Yeah.
so I got mixed up there. So let's get into Charlie Kirk again.
Okay.
Now, like I was saying before, I watched him almost every day. I'd watch those videos of him being at the college, and I thought he had a great message. I thought that he, smart kid, even though he didn't, finish college. What was your take on Charlie Kirk? Obviously, it's tragic that he got killed. I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying, what did you think of him and his message, his delivery?
Oh, like you said, he's brilliant. He knew the scriptures and everything, but it's the way he presented them. It's the old saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking to a bunch of college students that, younger generation now, they don't like to be put down or embarrassed, especially with a crowd like that. So, like I said, his message was correct. It's just the way he presented it. It
Mm-hmm.
made it seem like he was self-righteous or arrogant, and a lot of people took it that way.
Did you think he was?
No, I just think he was a young man. While he was 32,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that. And young people don't know what they don't know.
yeah.
It it's just as Christians, we're supposed to be, I guess, a little humble about our beliefs, because you're not trying to win an argument. You're trying to convince people that Jesus is Christ, and if we follow His instructions, we'll have better quality of life.
Well, not to mix the two up because one doesn't have anything to do with the other. But recently, Rob Reiner was killed. It was very tragic. It was awful. His son obviously had issues, and he was murdered, and that's terrible. But when we look at Charlie Kirk, there was a lot of backlash because President Trump, as he runs his mouth,
Yeah.
said something derogatory about Reiner. I can't help. I always called him Meathead just from the show,
Yeah.
but nothing derogatory towards
Yeah.
Rob Reiner. It's terrible. Not it was not. I was a fan of his movies, but personally, Rob Reiner's politics are different than mine. So be it. I noticed that obviously the View and a lot of people on the left were slamming that, and it was just awful and everything. Don't you? And I think you can explain this better because you've explained it to me. There was so much celebration when Charlie Kirk was murdered. TMZ had people cheering in the back when they announced he was dead. A lot of people on the left said they didn't like his message and he was full of hate. You had Miss Omar, what's her name, the same one say, it was better to be lost in history. What do you think about that? Like, where does that come from on the left, where that's okay to almost celebrate a young man being killed? What was your take on that?
Yeah, of course, there's always a double standard between the right and the left. And especially when you're politicians who are supposed to be, we should hold them to a higher standard of integrity and character. And they're just vicious. There's no holds bar. But when the right says something out of bounds, yeah, it's different. Now, Trump, you're right. I don't like his personality, but being president is not a personality contest. I love his policies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we go by. And he's from New York, and those people are different. But look,
I'm glad you just said different.
they've tried to do everything to destroy him. His family, they tried to bankrupt him. They tried to put him in jail. I mean, yeah, and I don't know that he's always professed to be a strong Christian, but it's just hard when somebody goes after you that much, you, your family, and trying to bankrupt you, put you in jail and everything. It's kind of hard, I guess, for a person like that just speaks his mind, to just be nice about it.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Well, do you not? And I don't condone it.
No, I
because
don't either.
I know
There's-
you don't.
there's
I know
nothing
you
right
don't.
about it.
I don't condone it. I will say that as I was watching, and and a few people relayed to me about how awful it was, and I watched. I only watched The View when they show clips on what I'm watching. I don't have time to. I don't watch The View during the day, but they were just tearing him up and tearing him down, and I sat there thinking about what you said about the things they had done to him, and I thought, Well, you created it. You know,
Yeah.
if you go after somebody over and over and over and over again, and then when somebody that and Mr. Reiner did criticize, the president a lot, which is his, it's his prerogative to get to do that. But I think that it just seemed like they had created a monster almost, and then they're mad because he speaks out of turn. I mean, and he knows he's not going to get any credit for saying anything right, or he's almost in a no win situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he should just not say anything. But I guess they asked him a question.
Yeah.
They said, but no, two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah. And how were you about that? Like with Rob Reiner, I did. There were a few times I saw him with Bill Maher. I saw him, voicing his opinion on politics. How are you about this? As I say, with Rob Reiner, celebrity giving their opinion like that? Do you think they put themselves in a bad spot? Do you think what is your take on celebrities wanting to voice their opinion on politics?
Well, just like Elvis said, entertainers should be messed in politics. Mm-hmm. They keep their opinions to yourself. Because I don't know that. Now, I don't know how much he was into politics, how much he knew. If you haven't been in politics and know the real meat of the game, you really have no right to criticize something. Just like after I left city council, people asked me, well, what do you think about what the mayor's doing? What do you think about the city council's doing? What do you think about how they voted on this? I said, look, I've been there. Unless you're at a meeting and know all the facts, you got no business, criticizing or critiquing the people there that have all the answers.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about it like that, and it's true. Like as you got into politics, especially later, I actually will go look stuff up now and study it for myself instead of just giving my opinion. And I thought it was terrible. I did, and again, I'm conservative. There's no question there. But I was disappointed at him saying something derogatory just because it makes him a target. But the man can't hardly say anything without somebody, saying something about it. How do you think that? And a lot of people on the left would probably disagree with this, but how do you think a show like The View even stays on the air? Do you not feel like, I'm going to tell you what I feel about this, is that they don't do any good for anything.
Well, there's a segment of the population that loves shows like that because they don't know any better. They're either uneducated, uninformed, or they just love to hear them bash the other side.
Yeah. Did you remember? Okay, we'll talk about this in the vein of Rob Reiner. I didn't understand All in the Family. Did you watch All in the Family on a regular basis?
Oh yeah.
And what did you think of All in the Family at the time?
Well, coming from my background, I thought it was funny because as you know, being a Mexican in Texas and taking the racism that was thrown at me. That's just part of life.
Mm-hmm.
But even back then, he wasn't just that, because he really was like he was. He hated Archie. Archie was far right, and he was far left.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but back then, see, I didn't understand, the different things. But getting back to Charlie Kirk here for a minute. Obviously, I always thought his message was good. I did start to feel uncomfortable when he went on campuses, and it was almost as if he was. I think it was one thing to correct young people that came up to the microphone. I think it was another one, like you said, to embarrass them. Like you always told me that's one of the worst things you can do is try to embarrass somebody, and that can be dangerous. When you do that. As they try to carry Charlie Kirk's, I guess, legacy or his message, let's say his message along, how do you think if somebody shows up on campus again, which some people have said they're going to take his place and go on campus, what would you tell them as a guy who has seen it all? What would you tell them when they went out there to not make the same mistake?
Well, again, make your presentation without putting somebody down, because you're talking about young people that have been pampered all their lives, that think that everything's against them because they can't have everything they want because they're too lazy to work for it, like we did back in the old days. And just like I said, God didn't put us as Christians here to win an argument. He put us here to be Christ-like and be example of Jesus Christ.
Charlie also, and like I said, I watched him a lot. Oh, as we used to say, religiously. I watched him almost every day. I see a clip. Him being at college. I followed him. One of the things that he was big on was that he just did not believe that racism made a difference. He thought that people made too much of a deal of it. We talked a little bit about racism, but do you stand with that in him? I mean, he basically told them not to use that as an excuse. Do you think today that racism really affects these young people to where it makes their life harder?
I don't think it makes it harder. It just gives them excuse, kind of a crutch. This is why I'm not successful. This is why I'm, can't get the job or make the money that I should be making because of racism. And that's got nothing to do with it's about job performance or working hard to find a niche that you can sell something that people want, whether it's yourself as an employee or something valuable that people want to buy.
Very nice.